Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this.
So if you haven't heard yet, then we have a big announcement.
We are having a baby.
I thought you were going to say we were pregnant.
We're pregnant and having a baby.
Means the same thing.
We at the time you guys hear us, we will have shared about it on Instagram and Facebook and stuff already.
Yes.
But we're recording this when we haven't actually told anyone except for friends and family yet.
Yes, and Elizabeth has been dying for the last several weeks to be able to say those words on a podcast.
Yes. Yeah, so we're going to do in this episode some stuff about like how we found out, what the first trimester has been like, birth plans. What else? I guess that's the main stuff we'll talk about.
Yeah, I guess just kind of all things first trimester, since this is literally the first day of week 13 for you, right?
Yes, right now we're recording this. Week 13 just started. You guys will hear this during like week 15 of the pregnancy. We don't know the gender yet.
Or sooner if you decide to release it sooner.
Yes. All right, so let's dive into all this. Okay, so to start, we want to talk about how we found out. So I found out while Adam was actually still asleep and did not wake him up until he just like naturally woke up on his own. So the story goes, it was Sunday morning on December 20th, so really close to Christmas. And I had bought on Amazon this pack of pregnancy tests and ovulation tests in bulk. So I had like 50 ovulation tests, 25 pregnancy tests, so like a ton, all for like $15 on Amazon. So I will link to that. But, you know, you often hear people say that they didn't want to take a pregnancy test because they're expensive and so you don't want to waste them. But I had so many and they were really cheap that I did not feel like I had to save them. So I actually didn't have a reason to think I was pregnant yet, like hadn't missed a period or anything like that. But I had a lot of tests to spare. So I was like, I'm going to take one this morning as soon as I wake up. So I actually took it in our dark bathroom while Adam was sleeping because our bedroom is really weird. Like we have you want to explain
half
it?
Half of the wall. We have half of the wall.
Yes. So if the light is on in the bathroom, the person in the bedroom will totally be like awake. So I took it in the dark, which then when you get a positive test makes you be like, did you like do something wrong? I don't know. But I took it in the dark, took it with me into the kitchen, set it on the counter and started making coffee. And I was honestly really hoping for something, but not expecting it to be positive. I also was taking a cheaper test when I did have one like nicer test still, because I was thinking like, okay, I don't want to waste the nice test when it probably isn't going to show anything. So I just left it sitting there. And then while the coffee was making, I go to look at it and there was a line and it was like really, really faint, but still there. Not like one of those where you're like, only you can see it, but it was like, I took a photo of it and you could totally tell there was a line. It was just faint. And so I feel like I literally lost my mind and created like an entire performance just with myself. And I like started crying, fell on the floor, was shaking, and was like just freaking out all alone.
Yeah, just a side note, I actually didn't know that you fell on the floor until I read the outline for this podcast. Because again, I am asleep for all of this, which that might be something interesting to talk about as to why you didn't wake me up. But yeah, I knew it was a big deal before I woke up, but I didn't realize you made it all the way to the floor. That's wild.
Yes, it was a drama, a major performance with myself. But yeah, I was just so grateful and so unexpected by it. And then I remembered, like, again, still not planning to wake you up because I was like, I need to process this on my own. But I remembered that I did have one, like, quote unquote, nicer, like, first response brand pregnancy test that had come in a pack of a few that I had left over from another time I took a pregnancy test. And so I went and got one of those from our bathroom and then took it in our guest bathroom. So I didn't have to take it in the dark this time. And that one was like a super clearly positive line, like even more so than the cheap Amazon test. So I just like stood around in the kitchen, kept processing, kept crying and shaking and to not wake Adam up. And I was like
sleeping peacefully.
Yeah. And then he eventually woke up on his own. It wasn't that far later. It's probably like 20 minutes or 30 minutes later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like a late sleeper.
And then what was your perspective when I told you? I don't even really remember how I didn't do any like cute way of telling people, like how a lot of people tell their husbands in a cute way. I did not do that.
No, definitely not. I mean, I got out of bed, I walked from our bedroom out into the living room, and then you were, I think, already standing on the other side. Maybe you had just come in out of the kitchen. And I don't think that I could tell if you'd been crying or not, but you definitely clearly had like a extremely emotional, excited, exuberant face on, and just kind of I don't even think that you showed me the pregnancy test. I think you just said maybe holding the pregnancy test like I'm pregnant, which is a shocking, wonderful, wild way to wake up on a Sunday morning. But yeah, and then I don't think I said anything. I think I just went across the room and I think we hugged and kissed and then looked at that really faint but still there line.
Yep. And then we sat around and just talked about it all for like an hour or so because we were waking up early enough. Church was at 9, and we did go in person that Sunday. We haven't been going in person consistently with COVID, but we like sat around and talked, had coffee, and then had breakfast, and then went to church, which was a really nice way to start finding out pregnancy.
Now, which this might be kind of interesting to talk about. I feel like you were maybe more shocked than I was.
100%.
Okay. Not to say that I was necessarily expecting it. But I don't know. Maybe do you want to talk for a second about why you were so shocked? And then maybe I can talk for a second about why maybe I was not as shocked.
Well, I don't know if this would be why you weren't as shocked, but we had just started trying. And I know that's not everyone's experience. I wasn't necessarily planning to share that. But yeah, we had just started trying. This was 12 days after we had decided to truly start trying. I had been off birth control since earlier in 2020. So in like May of 2020, I came off birth control. So we had just been not trying. We had started trying. And I was like, I don't know, I guess like feeling hopeless that it would just take forever. And so I was expecting it to take forever. So when it didn't, I was super shocked.
Yeah, I think.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode.
And I think you would agree with all of this. Like, you experienced a lot of fear and anxiety around the process of getting pregnant leading up to it before we had even decided that we were ready to start trying or anything like that. Like, you were coming into it with a pretty anxious disposition, which I think there were a lot of things that went into that. I mean, one, that is a lot of people's stories. I mean, we have plenty of friends and people who we know personally who, had difficult, longer stories when it came to pregnancy. That's not at all unusual. So I think that was part of it. Another part of it was we'd had multiple friends get pregnant within the last year, and it seemed like every one of them had a pretty easy, simple story. So then that kind of created maybe some insecurity on our end of like, oh my gosh, it looks like it's easy for that person. I wonder if it'll be easy for us. Just a ton of emotion surrounding that, which I don't think I felt as much of that. Some of that might just be differences in our personalities. Part of it might be the difference between the role that you play as the mom and the role I play as the dad. Maybe something about society puts more of the pressure on it being easy on the mother. I don't know, but we were definitely approaching it from different angles like that.
Well, I think another thing for me was 2020 was a really hard year for us personally. And I mean, gosh, if you even think about it, when we did end up getting pregnant, we had just been robbed, not even a month earlier. Like, our house had been robbed. So it's less than a month.
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah. So it's and then losing my dad last year. I mean, there were a lot of things that were just hard. And so I feel like I got used to things being hard and was kind of like, this will probably be hard too. And something else I did that I would not recommend is I got when thinking about okay, I think we'll be ready to start trying soon, but we weren't trying yet. Because I am such an information gatherer as a person. I'm like a Enneagram 6, wing 5. I love information. I dig deep into stuff. But whenever I started thinking, okay, we're going to start trying soon, I wanted to learn everything possible about fertility. And so I started listening to a lot of podcasts that were about fertility. And they all really bummed me out because they were from the perspective of you've been trying to conceive for years. You're considering IVF and all of this stuff. And so I was getting so much information that was just this is going to be so, so, so hard. And it was really discouraging me. And my friend Sarah, actually, which we'll talk about a funny thing with her in a minute on this podcast, but she was one who I told her about how fearful I was. And then she was like, please stop listening to all those podcasts and just relax and quit gathering information. And then you also told me that. And then it all happened. So.
Yeah, that is, I think you're right. All of the consuming of information through Google searches was definitely a difference because that is you are investigator or researcher, or whatever word you want to put it on it. You like to gather information. I'm not like that. I never am really Googling anything. And I have a natural distrust for the internet and technology. So even if I read it on Google, I would be more in a position to not want to believe it. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of I'm not saying it's bad to research stuff like that, but all those articles and all those websites function the same way that news outlets function, right? The interesting stuff to print and write about is the bad stuff. So you are going to find a disproportionate amount of negative information because those are the problems that need to be addressed, right? But that's probably a different conversation.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, we're so grateful that it happened the way it did. And I've been feeling that literally every day, thinking about this whole journey so far, which has been, I mean, we found out, like I said, it was 12 days ish that we found out we were pregnant. So we were not people who found out 6 weeks or 7 or 8 weeks into the pregnancy. So we've truly known this for a really long time. But let's talk about right after we found out, because we found on the 20th and then, Christmas is right there. So we went home for Christmas. We did Christmas this year with my sister, my mom, and Adam's mom. And it was I wanted to tell everyone at Christmas. I had that. I was like, let's just go ahead and tell all of them. It'll be a nice little Christmas present for everyone. And I knew they would all be really excited. And then I also felt like it was going to be hard to keep it a secret if I did not drink any alcohol. And at first I was like, it'll be fine. Maybe they won't notice. But then the few days leading up to Christmas, and when we were going to go there, my mom was texting me cocktail ideas. Adam's mom had this special wine she wanted to bring for me and her to have. And so I'm like, okay, I cannot not drink and not seem rude. And I also can't say I'm on a diet. I can't say I'm doing dry December because they would be like, why are you doing dry December? No one does that in December. And so this is a little tip for anyone because it really worked well for us. We told them before we got there that we were trying to conceive. So at that time of the month, I was not drinking. And that's how I phrased it to my mom and mother-in-law. And they both were just like, yes, okay, no problem. Like, and then no one mentioned me not drinking at Christmas. And it was really easy. And it wasn't like a total lie in a sense, like, which I also liked, not completely lying to them. And then that led them to want to talk about baby stuff a lot at Christmas, which normally I would be really annoyed by. Like when we were not pregnant, and my mom would try to like talk about baby names and stuff. I'd be like, can you please stop? But then she was talking about more and I was less annoyed because I'm like, I actually am pregnant. So this can be an enjoyable conversation.
Well, I'm just thinking about how much that was annoying before you were pregnant. Not specifically any one member of our family, but like in total, all of the members from both of our families and friends too, like everybody surrounding us who either wanted us to be pregnant, that would be our family, or was pregnant, a lot of our friends. You talking about how conversation about babies was easy for you at Christmas when you knew you were pregnant is making me think about how, yeah, all that conversation was difficult and annoying before we knew we were pregnant.
Yes, that's another conversation. But yeah, totally. And then, yeah, so we'd recommend that you're trying to conceive to tell family at least. You don't want to tell like random people that, but but it works well for family. And then, so the first person I told, well, Adam waited a while to tell people, so it's really who I told. But after, which we can talk about.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
But so Adam was the first person to know, obviously, and then I told my childhood best friend Kathleen at Christmas because we grew up as next door neighbors. My mom and her parents still live next door to each other, and we got to see each other at Christmas. And I was like, we don't live in the same city anymore now. And so I was like, I want to tell her. And she felt like a really special person to tell first because I've known her what feels like my entire life, basically, since we were like 12 or so.
Your whole life that you remember.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, really. So she was the first person we told. And then I know Adam has a lot of thoughts about this, but like I just needed to tell people. Like it has been torture for me not telling people. And so one of the first things I did when we were like, okay, we're not going to tell friends yet, really. We're not telling family yet for a while. I posted in a Facebook group that I was pregnant. That's a coaching group I'm in. And none of the people in it I knew in real life. Like I checked. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to post in this. And that was really helpful to me to like share with someone because I just needed to share. And then we actually told our friends before we told family. A lot of friends ended up being told first. And then family kind of came after.
Yeah, which a lot of that was by necessity. Yeah. Like we were invested in wanting to tell as many family members as possible in person, which made it, a real rigid timeline. Like we could only do that when we could do that. You had to wait until a weekend worked out for them to come visit and whatnot. So it's not that we wanted to tell friends before family. It's that family couldn't find out until they were able to come see us or we could go see them.
Well, and it's a bigger deal for family members, I think. Like if something were to happen, they're the ones who are going to be more upset. So that made me motivated to like wait longer to tell them than friends.
Yeah, that's true. The first several people who I told, and I think this is also true for you, were people who had a miscarriage happened. While they would have been sad for us, would not have been personally affected beyond whatever they feel for me and Elizabeth.
Yeah, and people that like if we were to go through that, like we would be happy for them to know that and like support us through it too. So that was kind of my thought with telling people. But then, yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to tell people, and Adam was more calm about not wanting to tell people.
We had a different approach to that. In some ways, we still are different. I mean, Elizabeth wanted to announce the baby on social media 2 days before we recorded this podcast. So probably 2.5 weeks before you're listening to it.
Well, and let's say this real quick. So we're right now recording this snowed in Nashville. Adam did venture out yesterday and got us groceries because we were like literally running out of normal food.
It was an amazing story. I was driving on a solid glacier of ice.
He made it in a Corolla. So
I'm still on a high over it.
So Show It was just here with me filming for the Creator Series thing, and they couldn't get here on Monday. But I had, like, because of all the snow and everything, and then we ended up doing it Tuesday, but I was all ready to go. I'd done my makeup, done my hair. I was dressed nice. And so I'm like, let's take advantage of this while we're sitting at home. And so we actually used a tripod and my professional camera and did like announcement photos because we were supposed to have done a photo shoot with a photographer this week for it, and we couldn't make that happen because of all the snow. So as soon as I took that photo, I was like, I need to share it. I want to share it. I have to share it. So y'all will get to see that, though, a couple days before this airs, probably. But I've been so eager.
Yes, very eager, which I'm not sure what completely explains that difference in us of me being slower and wanting to share and you being faster. I mean, some of it is, and this is kind of ironic because we just finished talking about how I had less anxiety than you did leading up to trying to get pregnant. But I think probably on the back end of getting pregnant, I've been more influenced by traditional wisdom that says like, hey, don't share it until the end of the first trimester, since the first trimester is the riskiest time. Wait until that's over. Which I don't necessarily think that was completely driven by fear so much as I'm a conventional wisdom, conservative kind of thinker. Like, if that's the rule, if that's the way that it's always been done, my mind tends to naturally go to, great, that's what we do. We wait until the end of the first trimester. But you had a different perspective.
My mind's like, I got something to share and I want to share it. And it was really hard for me a lot. Like lately, I would share, like, I feel like I've been posting on stories less even because I'm like, I can't share like what I feel like is really happening, which we can get into when we talk about the first trimester's been. But
you know what, that is a really good observation, how you're very authentic in your sharing. Like, you don't really ever share anything that's like a production. It's more like authentic, genuine sharing of your life. So then it's like, once you find out you're pregnant, you're like, okay, well, I'm an authentic, genuine sharer, so I have to share this. And if I can't share this, I'll just have to share less. That's interesting.
Well, and something I've done is I've actually recorded, you probably haven't noticed this, but I've recorded and taken photos of a lot of stuff that is like what's happening and planning to share it later.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have a lot of stuff that I'll share with like dates later of like, here's what was actually happening. But yeah, one thing we're going to share that I'm really excited about is I made a few, we're going to show these IGTVs, but like these really cool compilation videos of telling friends and family about the baby. There's music in the background. It cuts between different things. It's very nice. Because we filmed telling all of our family members that we were able to tell in person, which we weren't able to tell everyone in person, but we filmed those. And then also filmed telling a few close friends. So I have those videos that I'll share. But it was fun. We actually made like custom swag, which sounds so lame. But to tell a few family members using the company that I already print my Etsy shop mugs with. At first I was looking just like on Etsy as like, okay, all this stuff to like tell people they're going to be a grandparent and things like that. And all of it, I was like, I could make this for less money and more custom to like what I actually want. So I just decided to make it all myself. So we gave my sister a really cute onesie that said Aunt Susie on it.
Which was probably the best gift.
Yeah, that was the cutest one of all of them. But I wanted to give her with something different. And so then we gave Adam's dad and stepmom cute mugs that said like Grandmommy and Papa, like their grandparent names. And then we gave my mother-in-law a really nice wine that had a label over it that said, I can't drink this, but you can. And she was the funniest of everyone that we told. Like the most theatrical.
Yes. Back to you falling in the kitchen. Like that, that was the drama.
Yeah, it's she's the star of that video, really. She's hilarious in it. But we gave her that, and then we gave my mother a book called I Love My Grandma. And she really loved that. And it's so funny because before we gave her that book, she was going to do like a weird grandma name. Like she kept thinking of all these weird names like Cookie and stuff like that. And then Adam hated. Yes. And then when she got the book, she decided she wants to be grandma now because she really loved that book, apparently. So that's some of the gifts we got people. I got a few close girlfriends who all have babies. I got them a book called I Love My Friends for their babies. And then I wrote inside the book that I'm pregnant. And so that's how they found out. So that was telling people. And then something else I wanted to share that I think is interesting. We had a few people kind of predict that I was pregnant before it happened. The most dramatic.
Which, to be fair, we've been married for 6 years. We're 28.
Not 6 years yet.
5 and a half.
5.5. Okay.
Yeah. 5 1/3.
Yeah. So, but yes.
Okay, never mind. It is dramatic.
It's predictable that we might be at the age where we're thinking about that.
I'm just saying, it's not like these people are magicians with a crystal ball over here.
I know. Okay. So Sarah, though, which by the way, okay, my friend Sarah just had a baby in the passenger seat of a car in one push. So
literally
on the interstate,
self-delivered a child. So, gave birth and delivered a child all at once.
Let's just say she knows what she's doing. And so she
is a trained, licensed medical professional. So
yeah, she's a nurse.
That probably came in handy.
Yes. But so it was actually like a few days before this baby would have been conceived, before that time that it would have happened. She texted me and said she had the most vivid dream she had had her entire pregnancy. And the dream was that it was New Year's Eve, and we always celebrate New Year's Eve with them. And so we were at their house for New Year's Eve, and this would be so annoying if this actually happened, but the ball dropped, and we said, we're pregnant at the New Year's, and that was her dream.
I had the same thought when I read that you put this in the outline. I'm like, that would have been such a moment-stealing thing for us to have done. And we just watched the episode from Friends last night, where Rachel steals Monica's thunder on her and Chandler's engagement night. I'm like, what does Sarah think of us that she thinks that we would do something like that?
That's what I was like, well, we would not do that. But then the crazy thing was that we were pregnant then, and I did not drink at New Year's, and everyone noticed it, even though I thought no one did, because they were all mostly pregnant, or all of them were pregnant or just had a baby that was at that party. But yeah, so that was one prediction, her most vivid pregnancy dream. And then Becky Hochek, who's been on this podcast, she's an amazing life coach. And she was on one of the earlier episodes. I can't remember the number, but it's a really good one. But she had a dream twice that I was in labor and that she was there helping. And that was also the same time that Sarah had the dream. And then my grandparents, this is not a big one, but after the fact, they had discussed it like a few days earlier, but would have been, or I guess a few weeks earlier, but would have been around the time we conceived that they thought we would have a baby soon.
And see, that's what I'm talking about. Like you can put one and one together and get two.
That's more of not a big one.
Anita and Hayes can figure it out. They can do the math.
But then the funny one is that Adam's dad and stepmom, when we were telling them like all these people kind of like knew it was coming, she literally had just told a friend a few days earlier that she thought it'd be at least 2 to 3 years before we had a baby.
Which is bizarre. I don't understand. It back to the grandparents of like, you can kind of figure it out. I have no idea why my dad and stepmom were assuming that we were several years away from having a kid.
Yeah, when they told me that, I was like, I don't know why y'all thought that. But they thought it was because Adam wanted to finish school first, but that's still not that many years away. Like she literally was like 3 to 5 years. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. So they were completely caught off guard. And most of my close girlfriends like knew because of me not drinking, even though I tried to be really subtle. Like I did dry January, which I feel like I pulled off really well.
Didn't you fake making a cocktail once?
Oh,
tried to straight up act like you were putting champagne in it, but didn't.
I've done that. And then I also, one night we were all at Tori and Michael's house, and Michael was like, who wants some champagne? And then I was like, me, I'll have some of that. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm doing dry January. So he was like, him and Tori both thought I might have been pregnant until I did that. Because he's like, there's no way she would have said that. And I'm like, or I'm just really good at acting.
Well, and that same friend, you put Michael through the emotional ringer when we were over there at one point in December, I guess, or maybe it's the beginning of January, and he offered some wine. And it was
he really wanted me to have some.
And I think it was really nice wine. Like, I think that maybe his family had given him the bottle or something, but it was really nice. It was red wine, and obviously Elizabeth can't have it. So he offers it, and she's like, no, thanks. I only like white wine. And then he was like really bummed about it. He thought he was like a bad host.
He felt so bad. He was like, I should have thought about that. And I'm like, well, because they just kept asking, are you sure you don't want a little? And I'm like, no, like that was in December. So that was before I was using dry January as an excuse. But yeah.
Just abused Michael's emotions.
I know. I felt really bad. It was funny though. Okay, so let's talk about first trimester and pregnancy symptoms. So some things here. I would say, so overall, and I am grateful for this, but I will say at the same time, it was hard at times because it made me feel like I was not pregnant, which can be emotional when you haven't had a doctor's appointment yet. If anyone has gone through this themselves, they know what I mean. But I had and still have had very little pregnancy symptoms overall in the traditional sense. Like I've not thrown up once. I've had very little nausea. I've not had morning sickness at all in the way people talk about it. And I've had moments, I actually started watching some TLC videos of that show. I didn't know I was pregnant. And I've been like, I get how these women didn't know. Like, if you're not looking for it, I'm like, I wouldn't know. Because you could think, oh, I'm just tired because I didn't have enough coffee. Or like, oh, I'm tired because of the workout or hard work day. Because my main thing has been really tired, has been my biggest symptom, I would say. Like a deep soul level tired.
Yeah, this is interesting. From my perspective, and again, I know that that's ironic to say because my perspective is obviously different and worse since I'm not you. I feel like you did have plenty of pregnancy symptoms. I mean, you're right. You didn't get like the super dramatic, like throwing up in the morning kind of thing, but you were really tired and continue to be really tired. I mean, you hit a wall basically every afternoon. You have had some weird stuff with nausea. You are super nauseated when you're around broccoli.
Yes, broccoli, Brussels. I don't like those.
Yeah, green vegetables have been super hard for you. I mean, pretty early on in the trimester, you were experiencing like your pants being uncomfortable. I mean, that's just true.
But is that always just life? Leggings are better.
But I feel like even when you've been in more comfortable pants, you've been like, these are too tight. I don't like it.
Yeah. One thing that does suck though, I just bought on Black Friday a bunch of really nice Spanx pants. And I got them in like my normal size. They don't have buttons because they're more like leggings. And now I like can't really wear them comfortably. Like they literally hurt my back because they're too small. So yeah, that's a real one though. And I've had headaches, backaches.
You've had really bad headaches. You've had sore throat, which is it's a pregnancy symptom because your immune system is weaker. You've hit walls in workouts that are unusual where you're like, oh my gosh, after I try to exercise for like 7 minutes, I'm completely gassed. You've been hungrier. I mean, that's a thing. Your appetite has changed. So throughout the entire first trimester, I felt like you really were having plenty of symptoms to offer, emotional confirmation that you were pregnant. It just felt like you had a pretty narrow set of symptoms that you were looking for, and you didn't have those.
Yeah, and we had our first ultrasound at like 8 weeks, I think. And that was a really rough day for me leading up to it, which I say rough day. We had it at like 10 a.m. or so. So it was really a rough day the day before.
Fun.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. But I was just so worried that something was going to be wrong because, again, like I did not feel very pregnant in the way I thought I should, comparing to even like, I've had friends who had to be like hospitalized over their morning sickness and things like that. So me being like, oh yeah, a little nausea, but like, I could have just been not like you could have explained the nausea by something else besides pregnancy, even because it was never that dramatic, which again, I'm grateful. So if it sounds like I'm complaining, please do not hear that to someone who is like, oh my gosh, I've had a horrible pregnancy. I'm like, I get that. It's been a really good thing, just worrisome at times.
I know. And when the symptoms would come, all of a sudden you would be like, I don't want these symptoms anymore. So back and forth.
No, I was happy too at the same time. But it's interesting too, and this is something like if you've been pregnant, you've probably experienced, but like one day I could feel super pregnant, like I'm so tired, I'm having a headache, backache, I'm a little nauseous, I'm really hungry, and then the next day I have so much energy and I'm like ready to conquer the world and don't feel like held back by anything. So it's been a lot of back and forth. And I have had those versions that we mentioned, mostly the green vegetables, but then I would say cravings wise, I've had a lot of, Adam has some commentary on this. One big one's been for me is Annie's mac and cheese. Like we stocked up on it, which I'm really grateful for because we've needed it when we ran out of food. Now trapped in the house.
Ice castle of a house.
But there was one day after lunch I made some Annie's and it was just like, it's the best food I'd ever had. It was insane.
Yeah, you that's been an unusual thing, which is a little bit of cravings and a little bit of the appetite changing, needing more food, but eating at different times. But yeah, you just like made a pot of mac and cheese at like 2:30 in the afternoon. Just a little work.
I didn't eat the whole thing. But I could have. It was really good.
I mean, to be honest, you haven't had a lot of aversions or a lot of cravings, but one interesting craving has been real chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Which I know it's like to the rest of us normal people we're like, but that's a craving. Like that's just a Tuesday. Like, but Elizabeth does not like milk. You like almond milk and any other kinds?
Like I'll do oat milk and coconut milk and stuff like that.
The point is actual milk that came from a mammal is not a thing that you ever want. But all of a sudden you're coming home with chocolate milk and you're like really excited about it and no longer grossed out by the concept of it.
Yeah, I can have a little bit of like natural aversions to meat that are unrelated to pregnancy that I've always had. But yeah, I've been doing Fairlife milk. So if you guys want a good milk brand, it's actually lactose free. It's lower in sugar and it's like organic, I believe. But I've really enjoyed that. We're out of milk now, which is unfortunate because I would totally drink some right now.
I know it is really, and again, back to being trapped in our house. Kicking it back to a second ago, do you know talk about how amazing our ultrasound operator was? Since you were talking about how nervous you were that morning.
They were awesome. It was like
she understood that you wanted that to happen immediately in the appointment.
Yes. So she understood I was nervous. Because, they also check out other stuff, at least at that first ultrasound that they did. And they did it not on your stomach, but like the other way. And so she, like, before checking other stuff, immediately went to the baby. And she was, because I had read online that a lot of ultrasound technicians, if something is wrong, or even if it's not wrong, they're not supposed to tell you. They're just supposed to let the doctor tell you. And they're not allowed to, like, tell you the information, which she did the exact opposite. She told us, like, the heartbeat was really strong and let us see it a lot. And I cried a lot. I was very emotional.
Yeah, she just understood the whole situation, did a great job, like knew she's got her to-do list of whatever, 5 or 6 things that need to happen in this appointment, but understood right out of the gate, first thing, let's see this ultrasound. Let's verify the baby's okay. Let's go ahead and say that, explicitly to us as the parents, and then continue on with the rest of what she had to do, which we really appreciated.
And our baby is so cute, y'all. It's waving in the ultrasound photo.
Straight up.
And we don't know if it's actually waving, but that's what it looks like. And so we have it on our fridge. It's like a little hand up.
You can
waving.
See the fingers.
It's real cute. And the heartbeat was very high. It was like 175.
Yeah, which apparently
was kind of, I was like, is it okay?
Didn't
that's
know
normal.
That, but it's, but like you're supposed to be above 140 or something is wrong. So,
and apparently later in pregnancy, it being higher indicates it being a girl and lower indicates it being a boy. But at this point, apparently they're all tend to be higher. So, but later, if it's still like 170-ish, it could be a girl being the meaning, or if it's lower, a boy.
And at that first ultrasound, we couldn't hear the heartbeat, which you did at the second appointment you got to go to that I couldn't go to because of COVID. But at the first one, we did get to watch a little like action shot video ultrasound where you could see the heart like fluttering, which was so cool. I mean, you're talking about like a pinprick size thing here, but you can see that heart just thumping. Super cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And they sent us, it was neat. They didn't print the photos for us, but like literally while we were still in the room, they sent us a link that had the video, the photos, all of it, where you can just download it to your phone. It felt very with the time. So like, give us the technology version.
We just want
of
a
this.
link we can text.
Yeah. So that was really special. And then, okay, let's talk about birthing. Do you have anything else on first trimester stuff? We can talk more about if you think of more.
I think that mostly covers it.
Okay. So another thing I wanted to talk about was birthing plan stuff, which, I mean, we're obviously so early in this process. So I would say technically this could still change, but I don't think it will. But I'm planning to do a natural birth at a birth center here, a freestanding birth center. And I'd always kind of thought I would want to have a natural birth, but hadn't actually done a lot of research of like, what are the options when you say natural birth? Like, we know there's home birth, like what else is there? There's natural in a hospital, all of that. So when I first found out with the baby, though, knowing like, okay, I think I might want to do natural, I called my new OBGYN who had actually still not seen in person yet because I'd set up an appointment with them for like my next like annual because we needed to switch because of our new insurance now that we're both on like self-employed insurance now since Adam's in grad school. So anyway, though, when I first found out, I called this new place, the normal OBGYN. I made an appointment, told them I was pregnant, and I was not sure if I wanted to deliver with them, though, but I had, like maybe 5, if not more than that, people I know who have used all the same doctor or another doctor from this clinic and all like loved it and have had great experiences. And they deliver typically at like the baby hospital of Nashville. So I was like, okay, well, I know people have done this. I actually don't really have many friends or like any close friends, at least, who have done natural births at a birth center or at home or anything like that. At least not that I knew of off the top of my head. So I started doing research, though, and decided like, okay, I think a birth center birth would be what I want. And reading more, I'm like, okay, a freestanding birth center would be cool. So I literally got on Google, found Baby and Company, which is Nashville's only freestanding birth center. And they actually recently,
kind of shocking.
Yeah, it is shocking. But they recently got acquired by Vanderbilt too. So there's like some changes happening there. So if there is an emergency, or I guess mainly if there was an emergency or some kind of complication, they'd transfer you to Vanderbilt. It's really close by. But they have a whole midwife team, really amazing birthing suites that feel more like an Airbnb room than like a traditional hospital room. Like you have a giant bed. You don't have to give birth laying down in the bed. You can do it in a tub or like standing up anywhere you want to in the room, really. And I've had only one appointment there in person so far. And then I've done some telehealth appointments. And then they did the ultrasound at a Vanderbilt clinic. Because of COVID, they're not doing the ultrasounds in Baby & Co right now. But anyway, I just have really liked them so far. Adam's also liked them. And I feel really excited about all the like natural birth stuff I've been learning, which I'm actually going to do a blog post probably like a week after this airs, where I'm going to link to like all the vitamins and supplements I've been taking, the birth courses, books I've been reading. What else? Other just like things that have been helpful during the first trimester. So be on the lookout for that if that sounds interesting to you. And we'll also be having a doula, which I didn't even really know what a doula was. Did you know what a doula was before all of this?
Actually I did. Because Jordan had mentioned their doula maybe at some point in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah. So we'll be having a doula. And I actually interviewed someone earlier this week, and I'm officially going to be like signing the contract with her probably today. But I heard it compared to having a wedding coordinator, of like that's like a great comparison of like a wedding coordinator, a day of coordinator, like someone to advocate for you and support you on like a really huge day. And when I heard it said like that, I was like, yes, 100%. I want that. And I really like our person. They've done a lot of births at Baby & Co. They're a Christian as well. They have done hypnobirthing births, which is a birthing method I've been looking into and I'm taking a course on, which I will link to that and stuff in the blog post when I end up doing that first trimester post. But yeah, that's the plan. Any thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, I have a couple. I think, okay, so I have been less opinionated about birth center versus hospital birth versus in-home birth than you are, which I think is natural and makes sense since I'm not the person who is actually giving birth. I have had an open mind to it, like nothing about it makes me uncomfortable or overly fearful. I will say one thing that I like a lot about the Baby & Co. situation. I like that they're owned by Vanderbilt. That just gives them a natural sense of legitimacy to me. And then on a practical level, I love the arrangement of, hey, in this birthing center, we are not set up to do the stuff that happens in a hospital. We're not set up to do C-sections and all that kind of stuff. However, should an emergency arise, yeah, we have a plan. We're owned by Vanderbilt. It's right next door. When this has happened in the past, and it has happened plenty of times, we have a process and procedures for transferring you over to this hospital. And with that plan in place, I feel really great about doing it in a birth center without all the benefits of being in a hospital when it comes to emergency situations. So that's one thing that's given me a lot of peace of mind. And that's kind of my overall thought on birthing centers of sounds great if there's a good plan in place for what happens in an emergency situation. And second thought on everything you just said is that for dads, I mean, moms are going to do this anyway, but for dads, really good and helpful and useful and fun to read material on natural childbirth. So I'm sure you'll link to it whenever you post about this later, but we've been reading a book together that's all about like natural pregnancy and natural childbirth. It's been really insightful and informative to me. So for a dad, don't skip that process. Even though you're not the one who's going to give birth, it's still important to educate yourself.
Yeah, and that book we've been reading is the Mama Natural Week by Week Guide to Pregnancy and Birth. And it's like every week it gives you just the information you need that week. And it's laid out really beautifully, fun to read. And so Adam's been reading that with me. And it even has questions in the back for like interviewing a doula, interviewing a midwife to hire, like interviewing a hospital or birth center and stuff like that, and like questions to ask. Like literally when I interviewed the doula who I'm now hiring, I have the book on the floor of my office right now because I think I had the call with her like 2 days ago, but I was like literally had those questions pulled up on the call. And one more thing I'll add about birth center to add on to what you said, like something I've heard, and I know this is not everyone's experience, but I've heard it a lot. I have friends who've had this happen. But if you are wanting like a natural childbirth in a hospital, it's a lot harder because they're going to want to push for interventions if things aren't moving quickly enough. And so that was another reason for me of like, okay, I know I want to have a natural, like epidural free, Tocin free, all of that kind of stuff free childbirth. And so if I'm going to do that, it'll be easier in a place where that's already the norm. That's what they actually encourage. And those other things actually are not there if I were to want them. So I think that's a helpful thing. It's like they're going to advocate for you that way versus it being like you versus them. It's like y'all are all on the same team and wanting that same thing.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Okay, so you might have some more stuff to add. The last section I really have in this outline is talking a little bit about what it's looked like being pregnant and running a business so far, and being pregnant secretly while you run a business, which again, like I said, I feel like that's kind of like a harder part of it for me. But one thing I will say that I'm super grateful for, we found out, like we said, on the 20th of December. And in that time, like literally the day I found out, I was already taking off work for Christmas. And I took off, I guess probably about like 2 weeks total for Christmas, between like Christmas, like right before Christmas and a few days after New Year's. And so I was working not very much, really like trying to take time to relax. And so when I found that out, I'm like, okay, now I can dive into like, let me figure out being pregnant. And and as like I said, I'm such a researcher, but like I immediately started listening to all these pregnancy podcasts. I was shopping for stuff I thought I would need, buying new vitamins and supplements and buying books and courses, and like really was able to like just go all in and kind of forget my business for those few weeks and just only focus on like, let's figure out being pregnant. And I feel like that was a huge blessing versus like I could have found out at a time where I'm doing like a podcast batching week or something like that, or launching a course like what's happening next week at the time we're recording this. And so that was cool. And it also felt interesting to me to have another intense interest besides owning a business, because I feel like my other intense interest when it comes to like researching stuff is this business. So now I was like having that same intensity of like learning, but with pregnancy. And now I've gotten back more into like a balance of like, I'm definitely moving between like reading pregnancy books and like I'm reading 2 business books right now. And I've been reading the same kind of mystery novels I'm always reading. But we've been talking about the baby like all the time now, which has been really fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. What I just thought of when you said that, like having another intense interest outside of work. And again, we're at the very, very, very beginning of this, you know, like 1 trimester into pregnancy, for crying out loud, like not even actually parents yet. But I can already feel and see the effect of being parents in the sense of like opening up these new kind of spheres of life. It's feeling like it expands life a little bit. I feel like since finding out that we're pregnant, that I even have in some sense like a bigger life because of it, in a sense that I don't really even understand, but I'm only beginning to understand, if that makes sense.
That's really beautiful. I love that. That's very true. And that's been, I mean, you've had that same experience too of like a new interest and thing that you were going to be putting a lot of time into.
Yeah, I'll keep going with this. I actually felt the same when we got married. And I remember the analogy that made a lot of sense to me is like, right, there's 4 chambers of a human heart. And I remember after we first got married, in my mind, having the analogy of feeling like I was walking through a door into a chamber or a room in my heart that like I'd never been in before. Like opening up almost like a secret door into this part of myself that was always there, but I didn't even know that it existed. And it feels like that's kind of happening again within a new room of my heart.
That's beautiful. See, Adam's really good with words, if you can't tell.
Oh, that's sweet.
He's the true writer and content creator of the family here.
I think you make a lot more content
I do
than
make
I
more
do.
content, but not this kind of content. Okay, I love that though. What else? Okay, one thing we wanted to share. Oh, what the business will look like kind of after the baby comes. One thing that's interesting, you know, we found this out, like I said, at the end of a year, starting to really like think about it at the beginning of a new year when you're setting goals. And so I really struggled setting goals for this year and waited a really long time to set it because I struggle with like, I don't know how I'll feel, because at that point when you're like, okay, it's almost January, setting goals, I'm like, will I have horrible morning sickness? Will I not have any energy to do any of these business goals, things like that? So I took a long time to set goals. I also think 2020 being a hard year made it harder to set goals, which I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to. But from a business perspective, like literally thinking about my business, I've started to see this year as like January through the end of August. Our due date is August 26th. And I know the babies don't always come on their due date, but like I've kind of thought of like my business year as like those dates, because I do plan to take a maternity leave and like a legitimate one where I really am signed off, and things will still be happening for my business. Like we're going to figure out how to keep having podcasts come out every week and other types of content. And I have a team that will still be answering emails and all that good stuff. But I am planning to like take some legitimate time off. So there's a lot to do before August, though. And I'm already, at the time you guys hear this, I'll have knocked one of the things out. But like the kind of, I guess like 3 or 4 main things I've thought of that are like my business stuff for the year is beta launching my booked out designer course, which will have happened the week before this, which I'm so eager to just hear like how that goes. You guys will know how it went. I don't know. But I'm really excited about that. And then finishing the creation of the course, which is its own huge thing. And then doing a public launch of the course as well in the summer before the baby comes. And then also releasing more templates this year, which that's a lot of stuff to do before August. So those are like the main things. And then also more team stuff. Maybe I'll do a whole podcast on this, but like, it's been so fascinating for me in thinking about, okay, I'm going to take a maternity leave. It's still a really long way away, but that's something I'm going to do. Like, what does my business look like if I'm not available to ask questions to at all for like a month? Which I don't think that's what my maternity leave will actually look like. I think it'll be probably like one day a week where I'm like, hey guys, I'm here available. We might have a meeting even. And that sort of thing. But like, if I'm not there, there's all these things where I'm like, I'm the only person that knows how to do this. And there's no reason for me to be the only person. So we've done a lot more of like, hey guys, here's how to, do this random thing on Thrivecart that only I knew how to do. So we've had a lot of that, which is really fun. And there might be more like hiring this year too is another thing. But that's kind of what I'm thinking business wise. You want to talk about what you think your life will look like when the baby comes?
Oh man. Well, I know you just said that you've thought about your goal setting for the year as like your year ending in August. I haven't necessarily thought about it that way because I won't, I'll take some amount of time off from work, but I won't obviously have like a full 3-month paternity leave like you will. So for me, the way that took shape was just more of thinking of my year in terms of goals to accomplish, work to do before the baby and after the baby, almost like this split in the middle of the year. My life, as far as what's going to look like after the baby comes, I mean, I'll probably quit my job at MTSU, which I'll obviously still be in school. I'll still have my graduate classes, but right now I work at the school too to pay for those classes. We'll try to do the things we need to do between now and then to set us up for me to not have to do that so that all of my work will be completely flexible. At that point, I'll be doing my graduate coursework. And then also all of the stuff for our real estate rental business. But both of those are flexible, right? Like you still have to work on them, but you get control over how you structure your schedule, which will open me up to be, super involved when it comes to taking care of the kid.
Yeah. Which I think is exciting. Like once that like new like maternity leave time wears off, I'm hoping that we'll both be available to do childcare and then me also work, like, and Adam also work, like kind of switching time somewhat. I'm sure we'll also get childcare in some way, but we haven't really started thinking that far
we
yet.
haven't figured all that out. I mean, it will definitely happen at some point in some way.
Yeah. But yeah, well, that's exciting. If anyone's wondering why we were like rushing to get rental properties, we were like, we got to get these before the baby.
Yep. And that's a lot of the goal setting for this year of like what all on that front needs to happen before the baby to have things as much as possible set up before that happens.
Yeah. So super exciting. Anything else you want to add? That's all our
I have a question that I thought of.
Okay.
Have you felt any kind of like fears or anxiety or apprehension about being a parent? I know you felt plenty of anxiety leading up to getting pregnant and throughout the first trimester. But I'm talking about more like looking into the future, having a family, being a parent. Have you felt any anxiety about that?
I mean, a little bit. We've talked about this.
I feel like I just reminded you of something that you need to become anxious about.
I mean, part of me is like, well, we don't know how to be parents. So I'm like, I know there's a lot to learn there. But I also feel a lot to learn. And even like some basic childcare stuff we don't know. I used to nanny. You guys know that when I first started my business, but before then, I did not have any experience really around children. And even with my nannying, it was mostly older kids. So like, and I've changed diapers, but like Adam, I doubt you've ever changed a diaper. There's like some stuff like that where I'm like, well, we don't really know what we're doing there. But I do feel really excited about being a parent. And like, I think we'll be great parents. And I know there's a lot to learn, but I feel like I feel more excited than anything about like how I think we'll do as parents, but then also have been like, okay, where are the parenting books? I need to do that. Are you thinking of the Arrested Development?
Yeah, for Arrested Development.
There's a funny part. If y'all watch Arrested Development, Lucille Bluth, like talking about how she's not a great mother, says it's not like you came with a manual or anything.
Yeah, and then it cuts to a little graphic pops up on the screen that's like, if you Google parenting book, there are 10,978 results or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've been paying attention on podcasts I listen to and things like other moms, like a lot of business owner moms who just end up dropping this kind of stuff into their podcasts, like books they really enjoy for parenting. I've been like paying attention to that and keeping a list of like, okay, this is all stuff I need to read. But I don't know. I haven't really had a chance yet to feel anxious about that. Well, how do you feel about being a parent?
Well, I've only felt anxious one time.
Oh yeah, with friends.
Yeah, I've mostly felt, I know there's a lot that I don't know. I mean, God, I know a lot less than you because I did not have babysitting experience. And also, I don't know if anyone relates to this, but communicating with children has always been pretty inaccessible and weird to me. Like, I don't know how to talk to kids. That's not like a natural
Yeah, Adam's not
thing.
a baby talker.
I'm not a baby talker. So there's a lot that I got to learn there. That doesn't really cause me much fear necessarily. Like, I feel like I'm in more of a trusting, excited place of like, yeah, we're going to have to learn how to do something new. And that's like a big part of human experience. And that's awesome. Like, we'll figure it out when it gets here. I did feel some serious fear watching Friends, though. It was the only time that I felt a twinge of it. We were watching the episode where Phoebe is taking care of her brother's triplets and Monica's helping.
And Chandler.
And they like figure it out or whatever. And the kids are leaving and Phoebe's all like, oh man, like they got to stop complaining. Like that was so easy. And Monica's like, yeah, Phoebe, 2 hours, the rest of your life, same thing. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, that does sound hard. Rest of my life, that is going to be challenging.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison. Also, if you don't have HBO Max yet to watch Friends, we on a whim ended up getting it. And it's not worth the price if you're only going to watch Friends, but we actually have friends in our actual friends who we're all going in together on all these subscription services like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Peacock, like all of them. Literally all of them. Disney Plus. Hulu. And we found a way where all of us are going to only be paying like $30-something for all of them together, like total that much. And so HBO Max is one of them. So we've been really diving into Friends again, which I'd missed. I didn't watch Friends at all in 2020, which really sucked. Yeah, it feels one of the many things 2020 did to us was take Friends away.
Feels like putting on a really well broken in pair of shoes.
Yeah, it's been good. But yeah, that's that. That was a little side tangent. Anything else?
I think that's all I got.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was long. It was a lot of information, but hopefully we hit stuff that was actually interesting. And if you guys want more pregnancy podcast episodes and stuff like that, let me know, because I would certainly talk more about all of this stuff on the podcast. And thank you guys for celebrating with us in advance, I guess, because I think you guys will celebrate with us whenever we do announce it. And that'll be really fun. I look forward to that. So yeah, thank you for listening. You have something else to say, Adam?
I was just going to say bye.
Goodbye. That is it. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, friend. I appreciate you being here. Hey, I want to tell you, if you've enjoyed this episode, then I really want to encourage you to check out my website, where you'll find tons of resources to help you grow a profitable and sustainable business. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find a lot of great things, some of which I want to tell you about right now. So you'll find free workbooks to help you do things like identify your ideal client, discover what pain points you solve for your customers, or even a guide to help you plan out your Instagram feed. You'll also find my top business tools. Like, yes, I literally list out all the major tools I use in my business on my website, and I have a bunch of special discounts and offer for you guys to snag and try out these products and services. You'll also find my website template shop that helps you DIY your way to a strategic website for your business. These website templates are easy to use, they're built on the Showit platform, and they are gorgeously designed. I have a feeling you'll absolutely love them. So to access the tools and free downloads, go to elizabethmccravey.com/tools. And to access the amazing website templates so you can get started with a new website today, go to elizabethmccravey.com/shop. I hope you have so much fun exploring over there. There's so much great stuff for you on my website. And you guys, don't forget, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. And leaving a rating and review for the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, or even just sharing it with a friend, is a great way to support this show. Thanks so much for being here. Bye, you guys.